It's good, yeah, especially good when you're working with such quality people.
Is that, as a coach, I imagine that's something that you miss when you have to take any time away, and the opportunity to get back out there then. Tuesday, today, were you chomping at the bit? What does it mean to be out there?
Well, it's something you love to do, so it's a passion. So when you haven't been able to do it, I coached high school football, I coached my kids, but when you're at this competitive level, it's different. And to be with a group of coaches that is, I think an elite group of coaches and an elite group of athletes, it's an awful, enjoyable thing to do.
Is it nice to be back into coaching and not have to deal with a lot of the head coaching responsibilities? Unlike today where you're meeting with the media, but usually not having to deal with the head coaching responsibilities. Is that nice?
It is pretty nice, I got to tell you.
Hey, Greg, we finally got a copy of your contract, but pardon that, but it's a one-year deal. Did you want just 1 year, or just how did that end up being that way?
Well, there's a lot of things, when you're under contract still with someone else, there's a lot of business type stuff that's involved there. So, but that's all. There's nothing to read into that.
And you're talking about what, the Tampa Bay thing?
Yeah.
And you're
exactly.
Just based on the rate, you're still getting paid by them, correct?
Well, that's kind of personal stuff.
Yeah.
But there's extenuating circumstances. Let's say that.
What have you seen since you've come to Ohio State as a different type of college program than what you've seen before?
It's an elite program, and when I say that, I mean that in every way. On the football field, off the football field, and developing them as young men, developing them as student athletes, and it's a very demanding football program.
Even though there's a lot of players who have performed in games, there's only a handful of starters who are returning. Is that in a way a benefit to you, in that you're not working with a group that have been around here, played 3 years under a different system? It's a group that basically you get in some ways fresh and can develop immediately. Is that in any way beneficial to you in your work?
You know what? In the secondary, it might be in that if we're going to introduce some new things, that if a guy's been doing the same thing for 3-4 years, he might be like, oh, why do we got to change now? Why are we changing this little thing? Whereas guys that haven't had a lot of experience, they're just ready. They're fighting for a job, and they're wanting to please and do anything they can. So maybe there is, but I'll tell you, it's nice to have experience, as you know. Experience. A lot of these gray hairs are from lack of experienced players.
As you going into that though, Eric Smith is limited this spring. I think Cam is too. Is it kind of hard to get a picture of what's coming with who you've got available at this point, or how do you as a veteran coach play that?
You try to evaluate. I do at least try to evaluate every single thing we do. To me, meetings are a competitive event. Meetings aren't you go kick your feet up and talk about football. I want to see them compete in meetings. Who answers me first? Who answers me clearest, loudest, most assured? Every walkthrough. So everybody's getting different levels of work, because you're right, there's some guys coming off injuries. But I evaluate everything. I evaluate our walkthroughs, I evaluate our meetings, I evaluate our practice. And that all will go into the formula when you make a decision, because as you know, 2 guys will start back there, and we'll put the best 2 out there.
Has anybody just, maybe not ranking them, but has there been one guy that's really impressed you in that regard?
2 days.
2 days,
too soon.
But meeting-wise and stuff like that, yeah.
I think it's a very impressive group as a whole, and I love the thing that they compete. And I could say that about this whole program.
Yeah.
It's probably the most competitive program I've seen. Not probably, it is the most competitive program I've seen. And obviously, having been a college head coach, but then when I was out visiting a lot of programs, the competition level here is off the charts.
Malik said he's got a lot on his plate this spring. He said he's learned both safety positions. What have you seen from him? Is he kind of been the guy that's starting spring now, kind of like maybe taking up leadership?
Well, I think right now every one of those guys is fighting for a job. So I think before you can lead, you need to earn that position, right? So any leadership that's happening right now, I think, is more by action than anything else. But I think what we're doing with all the safeties is they're learning both. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself and say, well, really our third best guy can't play that position because he doesn't know the details of it. So we have time right now, and what we try to do is really teach them both. And then as we get closer to the end of spring and then into preseason camp, we'll narrow it down year for year strong, and away we go.
Greg, in your NFL experience, what was the value? I was thinking tomorrow with Pro Day here. What was the value of Pro Day to you? How much stock did you, as a head coach, when you worked with the GM and the scouts, how much value is there in a Pro Day versus what you've seen on this game tape from a player?
Well, Pro Day served a few purposes as an NFL coach, right? If a guy had performed poorly at the combine, he'll redo some of those things. Say he ran poorly, he'll run again. You can get another time on him. To be around him, I always like to be around the guys privately, where you can talk football and see what they're, so you do it. You have a 15-minute meeting at the combine. Well, what are you going to learn there? That isn't. You bring them in on a visit, but you can only bring, I think the number used to be 30. I don't know what it is now. 30 guys into your facility. Well, that's where you really learn about them. But that's 30 out of how many? 200 and something. So these pro days, if you can get a private meeting with them and talk some football, and you get to know them better and know their intelligence level as far as football intelligence, that's really what it's served most. Quarterbacks, you want to see them throw. So it'll be a big day for the quarterbacks throwing and those kind of things.
But subconsciously, do you take into account he's running on his home field as opposed to running on the neutral track at Indianapolis? I mean, from a time situation, or?
Yeah, I don't think it's a neutral track about Indianapolis or home track. What it is when you go to the combine, they purposely make it very stressful.
Yeah.
So you're up at 5 in the morning. You're going for, if you have any medical issue, doctors are yanking on it, pulling on it. Then they're sending you for MRIs downtown. Then you're bussing back or in a van back. You've got to be somewhere all the time. Yeah. Just the stress of it all, that has an effect on your performance. But elite athletes are able to block that all out and go perform. And that's what, I always look for at the combine. Can a guy block all that stuff out and go perform at a high level? Because if he can, he's got some mental toughness about it.
From an Ohio State perspective, what does a day like tomorrow mean for the program? For your program to have that many NFL guys working out and that many NFL guys here watching them?
Well, I think, number one, it speaks to the job recruiting that Coach Meyer and his staff have done, right? Because you bring in elite-level players. Then I think it speaks again to the staff and to Mick and all those guys who have developed those players, right? And then to the players themselves, that they've put in the effort and they are gifted. But, there's a lot of gifted guys out there that it goes to waste. This is an elite group of guys that have done an incredible job. Now have put themselves in position to have a lot of people that really would like to have them on their NFL football team.
How are you and Coach Fickell getting along? I mean, we always have to ask this because y'all are sort of both coordinators, whatever you want to call it. Just what's been your working relationship with him thus far?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, we spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
We discuss everything, and I think that's good. It's neat for me to have a guy that we just keep bouncing ideas off of. We're back and forth in each other's office or in the meeting room. It's been very productive, and it's a work in progress. We haven't finished through the whole scheme yet, so we're working as we go. We're training through the event, as they say.
Was Von Bell, was he a luxury from the standpoint? They used him a lot. They brought him up on the line, covered the nickel receiver a lot. Or the extra receiver a lot and stuff. Do you see the potential of having the same kind of safety play here next year with the guys you've got?
Don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
You'll see. Vaughn
is that the way you'd like to play? I guess is what I'm.
Well, there's times you would. Vaughn's a great football player, and I enjoyed watching him eat when I was here for bowl practice. Watching him on videos. We've watched every snap. He's done some really, really impressive things on tape.
Yeah.
Greg, they released your contract yesterday. It's only a one-year deal. Why is it a one-year deal? It seems like a lot of assistant contracts are 2-year deals.
I mentioned that earlier. I said that no problem. I wouldn't read into that. It's more of a business thing for me because I'm still under contract in another place and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of it.
Logistical, more.
Yeah, I would not read into it from any way because I know the way people would like to read into it that are recruiting. Oh, he's not going to be there. Well, I wouldn't read into that. I just tell you that it's more of a business thing for me personally. Yeah.
Have you made a straight up question? Have you made a commitment to Urban Meyer for more than 1 year?
That's between he and I, but we have talked about how important it is.
Continuity.
And we've got a great group of coaches here, and I'm really, really thrilled to be part of that. And like you mentioned earlier, not to have all those head coaches things on my plate. Now there's plenty of assistant coaches things I have on my plate. Trust me, different things, but I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the camaraderie with the staff. It's different when you're the head coach. You fly in and you get out. You fly into the other room, you get out. You're all over the place. It's been fun to hunker down with what I think are three tremendous coaches, and Coach Combs, Coach Fickell, and Coach Johnson. And then our young coaches, I think, are really good too. They've been very good at helping us get everything done we need to get done.
I asked you how you're getting along with Fickell, but I wanted to ask this. Urban Meyer wants, when he brings guys in, he wants guys who can recruit. He wants somebody to bring something to the table, not necessarily looking for a guru. But I'm just wondering, you personally, what's a little bit of a difference you might bring to this defense from the standpoint of a scheme standpoint or philosophically speaking? Is there anything that, as you look at it, that
I think 28 years of coaching defense.
Yeah.
You know, because even when I was a head coach, some of the years I was the defensive coordinator as well. And the years that I did that, it wasn't where I just called the plays. I literally did every bit of the defensive coordinating. So hopefully that experience can, bounce some questions off me and some different things that I've learned some lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't have to go through the pain on some of those things.
I know guys like Malik Hooker played mostly on special teams last year, Coach, but how much film have you watched of guys like Malik Hooker and some of those young safeties out there?
Every single snap they've played, and then all the snaps of what we've done in the winter program, all the snaps that we've done now. We didn't do snaps in the winter program, but all their physical output to judge their ability, to judge their mental toughness, all those things.
When you think about the two safety spots, what's the difference in the skill sets when you think about, does this guy maybe fit more this spot or the other spot?
Well, the one spot is more of a corner-like spot where you're covering a lot more. Now, it can happen to both, so I mean, you don't pigeonhole it that way. They both got to be really good athletes. And the other spot is probably involved in the run force more, so he's a little bit more of a sturdier guy. But like I said, we're training them all at both right now because we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves where we can't play the best two and then the third best and the fourth best. Because sometimes you can trap yourself like that if you're not careful. We're not that complicated where you can't learn both, at least initially. And then what you do is you hone in as you get closer, and you become really an expert at one of them.
At a place like Rutgers, did you maybe prefer to play older players, maybe more so than younger guys kind of get into the mix earlier here where the recruiting is a little different?
No, if a guy's ready to play, you play him. I didn't care. It didn't matter to me where I was. And we had some very productive young players and then some not so.
I was wondering, a little bit of practice we got to see on Tuesday, you seemed like you were very hands-on with everything, and I wonder, when you were a coordinator or a head coach, were you able to do that as much, or is that something you can do a little more now in this position?
Well, you're not responsible. I was responsible for everything.
Right.
So it was harder to be hands-on. Although I was a hands-on head coach, I don't have to worry about the offense now. That's not my problem. So I work in the defensive side and I work in special teams. So I've really cut out a huge piece of what I used to have to worry about.
I thought you looked like a young coach out there. Like I just wondered if
what
that was
refreshing.
I just mean you could have been a guy in your first or second year on the job. I just wondered if was it kind of refreshing being able to do something like that? Or?
It was. I had a blast. The last two practices have been a lot of fun. All right, guys, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate